Hello YouTube. This will be my first book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing for you today is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, originally published in 1910 or 1911, and it was originally published in French, and so this is an English translation. You'll notice some of the other copies, the text will be slightly different, and that's just because they have different translators translating the text. But I decided to read this novel because I had seen the 1925 silent film with Lon Chaney, and then I had seen the 1986 Andrew Lloyd Webber musical in New York, and it just absolutely blew me away. There had been no musical since then and before then that brought out such emotion in me, and I couldn't get out of my head. It just never got old, and so I finally wanted to read the original novel, and it was not disappointing. It was very different from the musical, but it was equally as entertaining. This was actually written about the Paris Opera House. He wrote this taking place. Gaston Leroux really wanted to make you feel that this opera ghost existed. There's a prologue where he describes that he truly believed. I'm not sure if Leroux truly believed this or he wanted to make you believe that, but that's what he wrote, saying that I have so much evidence saying that this is really truly the events that took place in this novel, and so that's why I wanted to put them on paper, to write them, to tell you that this is true. And you'll also notice in the novel it's written as kind of just kind of like a documentary on how the opera ghost existed, and you'll see little notes inside the little subtexts in the novel about where Leroux got his information, citing his work. And I just thought that it was even though it was very different from the musical, and the film too is different, it was very, very entertaining. It was actually quite scarier than the musical, because towards the end, where it's about to hit the climax, I'm just like, I don't even want to turn the page, because I was really scared, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But the narration of this novel is told through Leroux. I'm assuming it's Leroux. It could be he's writing as somebody else, telling this entire story. And then I was surprised that through the majority of the novel, it's told through a third person's view of Raoul, where it's not really, it's very different, because I would assume it would have been told mainly through just a complete omniscient third person view, but then what I got was it was mainly telling through Raoul, who really doesn't have a huge role in the musical. So I'm like, oh, that was different. I wasn't expecting that. And it's interesting, because the narrator, the majority of the novel, it's told through Raoul, but I'm just wondering how he got that information, because he cites his information throughout, and then throughout his telling of Raoul, it's like, where did he get this information from? It's quite confusing, but that's probably what adds to the suspense of the novel. And then the only characters it doesn't really go into, which I guess authors truly try to tell the story as best they can through their narration, and so Leroux did not tell any story through Christine or through Eric. You never hear any type of Leroux going into the view of Eric or Christine, because it's mainly through Raoul and through the Persian, who is absent in the musical, but he's very, very prominent in the novel towards the end. But he's very, very significant in the novel, which I liked, because it's something that I hadn't seen before. It switches. I think it's somewhat similar to this narration style of Wuthering Heights, whereas it has several different. It's all told through the same person, but it's then that person tells what somebody else has told them, and it's very, very intricate and complex in that way. And I found it to be slightly confusing sometimes, because it was hard to understand the opera house's architecture and design, because it goes through about 5 different they have about 5 different cellars underneath the opera house. And so that got a little confusing because I'm just not familiar with the architecture of the opera house. But I just thought it was really interesting how he incorporated the actual location into the novel, which from what I've seen, the opera house is beautiful. The character of Eric is very, very scary. But then you still feel sorry for him. I felt sorry for him watching the musical, and I really sympathized with him as well. Even though he's a crazed murderer and insane, I found a lot of sympathy towards him because of people just judged him because he was so foul to look at and didn't care about how talented he was, and it turned him into an evil person. And I thought that was really rather unfortunate because he could have been, and then the novel describes he could have been so wonderful. But I would definitely recommend this novel because it is truly emotionally evoking, and it is very, very terrifying at some segments, and I just thought it was very, very well written. I was wondering my favorite line in the film, in the novel, because it is the same basically as in the musical, where at the very end he says, "Oh, Christine," he sings, "I love you," and it's so tragic and sad. But it's at the very end of the novel. I hope I'm not, I'll put a spoiler alert because I guess this is my favorite line. And he's speaking to the Persian after all the events have happened. And he just speaks how, oh, of love, I am dying of love. That is how it is. I loved her so, and I still love her, and I am dying of love for her, I tell you. If you knew how beautiful she was when she let me kiss her alive. It was the first time I ever kissed a woman. But it just shows that the Phantom does have a sweet side. Well, not really sweet, he has an emotional side that you don't see most of the time. I mean, I really enjoyed the novel because it gave a lot of backstory to the characters, whereas the musical does not. And it just is really, really insightful because you learn a lot more about the Phantom, Eric, and you learn a lot more about Christine and Raoul's relationship and how it came to be. I would really compare the novel to the original silent film. That has more of a faithful adaptation, but then I was able to, the 1925 film was able to bring the novel to life for me when I was reading it, because I was able to remember the scenes in the film throughout reading the novel, so that kind of helped me visualize certain things, certain aspects of the novel. It stands the test of time. It's a very, very well written novel, and I truly recommend it.